Just a quick note before we begin. If you find meaning or comfort in these conversations, consider becoming a supporter of the Don't Forget to Breathe podcast. Your support helps keep these stories alive and makes it possible for others to find hope in their own grief journey. For as little as $3 a month, your support goes to offset costs associated with production. You can learn more on the information page for this episode and by clicking on the link, Support the Show. Welcome to Don't Forget to Breathe. I'm Bruce Barker, here with my co-host, Kristin Glenn. As every listener knows, to the core, losing a child changes everything. We usually think about how it changes our family, our marriages, our friendships, and our future. But today we're talking about something even more personal. It changes us forever. Many bereaved parents quietly wonder, who am I now? The things that mattered before don't seem as important. The person you used to be can feel like someone you barely recognize. Sometimes that realization is frightening. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever feel like your old self again. I believe the answer to that is no. Today, we're talking honestly about becoming a different person after child loss. Who am I now? Hey, Kristin, how are you?
I'm all right today. How are you doing?
Well, I'm either getting a cold or getting over a cold. I'm not really sure, so my voice sounds a little funky. So it could be a voice that's like, ooh, or it could be a ooh. I have no idea how it's going to come across tonight. So
just go with it.
It is what it is. So I'll try not to have any coughing fits. So we're talking about after child loss. Who am I? I know we've talked briefly about that in some previous episodes, but tonight is the focus on that. And I guess the question is, if someone asked you to describe yourself before your child died, who was that person? And who was that person for you? I'll ask you that.
For me to reflect on that?
Yeah.
On myself? You know, I feel like before Zach died, I felt like life had a pretty predictable path. I felt like if you put really good things into the world, you were probably going to have a pretty good life. I was very future focused, very practical, super busy and social, and my career meant a lot to me. I don't know if I met that former Kristin, if I even recognize her as a version of myself. She was so different. How about for you?
I was a lot more carefree. And I kept thinking about the future and planning ahead. I assumed tomorrow was coming, and I took a lot of things for granted. I took time for granted. I took joy for granted. The business that I was growing, I was focused on that, and it was its own little path. Definitely not who I am today and how that got completely changed. I mean, just like that.
Yeah. I often reflect on a thought, especially recently. I've been thinking a lot about the fact that I don't believe only Zach died that day. I feel like a version of myself definitely died at that exact moment. I feel like my identity was certainly shattered. I didn't feel needed anymore. I feel like my confidence in life, in myself, really disappeared. As a mother, I thought I could protect my child, and that was shattered. My feelings of safety for those that I loved. It was interesting. I cared more intensely about the safety of those I love and less about my own safety than I did before.
I can relate to that. I mean, afterwards, there was definitely for me a feeling of, I don't care what happens to me.
Yeah.
And And thinking only of me. I wasn't thinking about, like, my mom was still alive at that time. I wasn't thinking about, how it would affect her. And I'm not talking about taking my own life. I'm just saying, like, hey, if something happened, it happened.
Right.
And I didn't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd you feel as far as how you fit into your past friendships, your past role after Kristin died? Did those patterns, did those relationships feel altered, or your place in those relationships feel shifted?
Completely nothing fit. I was coaching girls lacrosse at the time, and didn't know if I wanted to do it again. I didn't know if I wanted to be around 25 daughters because they were high school.
Wow.
It was high school players. And friends didn't really know. They didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't really know what to do with them. And at that time also, I didn't care that much because you're right. I didn't fit.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a community like we have now and that we've talked about, where people get it. No one got it. Not at all. And conversations were super shallow. No one wanted to go deep because that's just something that I believe they feared. If someone asked me, I would have probably let them know. Not so much maybe to unburden myself, but just to go, fine, you want to know? Here you go. See if you can handle it.
Right.
So there was a little bit of resentment, I think, and I know anger and frustration. Yeah, conversations were just pretty shallow. What about you?
Yeah, boy, I remember that. And I think that's something this many years later that has stayed with me. My kind of tolerance for being involved with conversations that are really shallow, or being consumed by drama that seems really not to be impactful to our lives. That intolerance has definitely stayed with me. I just don't have a lot of time or energy for it. And I think I used to kind of be able to immerse myself in those kind of chitter chatter type of conversations. And I'm increasingly aware of how bad I am at those. If people really don't want to talk about how they're truly doing or how life really is going, I really welcome them to talk amongst themselves. And I just know that I won't be a very good contributor to that. So probably fewer of those friendships, but I've held dear to some of those old friends. I have deeper friendships, but probably less of the fluff relationships. Just don't really need to expend that energy that I used to not view as finite. I think that's definitely something that changed. I felt like in my 20s, I had infinite energy for whatever anybody was up for,
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely a yes gal, whatever adventure or chitter chatter or whatever, count me in. And now I'm really selective, intentional, picky, about where my energy goes, because I feel like I have so much less since I've been grieving.
Yeah, I also noticed that I just stopped caring about a lot of things that everybody else was consumed over. So for me, I can say sports, right? So I would, weekends were sports. I'm watching everything. I want to dive deep in so I can have the conversations. So I could talk about it and
Right. Know the
yes,
inside
I can
scoop.
tell you the stats. I know what's happening over here. I know about that trade. And after that, I could not have cared less.
Yeah.
Over the years, the things that do matter, that's what sticks. So for me, yeah, I love golf. That hung around.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play for the longest time, but all the other stuff, and I still get questions, even today. Hey, did you see the game this weekend? I'm like, what game? I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah, just didn't. And I listen to conversations, and they literally are consumed by this, and it's fluff for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good example, I think. Certainly, I think the topics seem inconsequential, and then also the drama that I think, unfortunately, sometimes my gender is more prone to. I just don't have the patience for that. It's interesting to witness myself not wanting anything to do with that. And I think that then eliminates some relationships because it defines many a relationship, unfortunately. It's just the who said what type of situation. And I feel like like I said, the friendships and relationships I have are really profound, full of compassion, but I'm much more willing to walk away than I was back then.
For me, it's narrowed, right? There was a broad group that I could have quote unquote relationships with based on whatever that subject was we were talking about. And now it's narrowed into that the conversations mean something. I'm certainly more empathetic and have more compassion, but the priorities have completely shifted and the relationships shifted. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Ooh. And for me, if I would have been asked what success was 30 years ago, my definition would be certainly very different. I don't think those things would match up at all now to if someone asked me, what is success in your life? What matters? How do you know you've lived a good life at the end of it all? I don't think my answers would have aligned very well from the pre-Kristin and the post-Kristin.
Yeah.
And I think it's different than any other loss. I was reflecting on this, like I've had losses that I'm super sad about. I miss my dad. I miss my grandma. I miss people in my life that even due to estrangement are gone. But there's something about child loss that marks the before and after of self that I don't think, for me, isn't reflected in other losses. I was the same before the day my dad died and after. He taught me a lot of great lessons. He was a wonderful man. But my Kristin self or identity was the same the moment his death occurred, pre and post. But I think there is a marking of the versions of ourself that's different for child loss. I think anyone that's gone through child loss would relate to this conversation of that before version and that after version, that marking in time of what we were before versus after. For me, it certainly has been different.
Definitely. The things that I chased before Kristin died, they just don't hold the same value anymore. And I believe you've already said that. Does that holds true for you as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My surviving children will tease me sometimes when they're unwrapping a gift, and they'll say, it's not going to be really a gift. It's going to be another experience. Right. I mean, I don't give much in the possession of gifts. It really is, what are we going to go do together? What experience can we have together? So it's something that people that know me well know that that's what speaks to me, is give me your time. Nothing matters more to me than how can we truly spend some real time together.
Because now time is far more precious.
Oh, it's ticking away.
And we're so much more, like I can say I'm so much more aware of it than I used to be. And the true relationships matter more. Success means something completely different to me now than what it did before.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. And definitely, like you said, it's experiences that you take with you to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how our value system adjusts completely. You mentioned, you died, we died, right? When that happened as well. And a point comes up that there was a grandparent that I was talking to who had lost a grandchild, and they were kind of struggling with, they were trying to put their finger on some things, and it was their daughter that was the mom. And I said, you need to realize that your daughter died too. You lost your daughter. You've lost a child in a different way. She will never be the same person again. You're going to get to know someone new, someone different. So that old version, that relationship that you had with that person, it ended when her child died.
Boy, I think you offered her such important insight when you told her that, because, I reflect on my parents when Zach died, and I finally realized that their grief had this double layer to it of where are you? When are you coming back, as far as their daughter? And I remember being really short with my mom one time. She was always the brunt of that. I protected my dad, and then my mom got all the great snarkiness, which was unfortunate. Sorry, Mom, about that. But, I remember her saying, she's gone. Stop looking for her. She's gone. And you may not like this new one, but this is all I got to offer. And that, I had to put it out there for her to just be that clear of stop waiting for me to return. There'll be glimmers. There'll be parts of me that you recognize, but I don't recognize myself. And there's no way she's coming back, because how could I believe that life was going to be fair and predictable, and if I put good things out, all good things would come back, and that my career was so important? I mean, how could I return to that? That takes away from the profoundness of what was lost. If I could return to that, and there's parts of her that I miss, and there's parts of her that I'm so glad aren't part of me anymore. And I think that's one of the things that is a struggle, is to think of, as we've said before, the gifts of this, right?
Yeah.
Gifts of being able to truly hold space for others, of having that extra compassion and empathy. You and I both know we would give up all of those traits in a millisecond if we could have our children in our arms.
100%. What I do now, I mean, I can look at it and go, because we've both heard this directly from people that have listened to the podcast, that have been in our groups, whatever it is, and the impact that we've had on them, I'd give it up. I'd be like, sorry.
Absolutely. I'm sure someone else can help you, but it won't be me, because I'm living this carefree life where I think bad things happen to others, in quotation mark, the others out there. And then we became the others.
Yeah. Like who I would be, I have no idea, but I would have my daughter here.
That's right.
I know for a fact you and I would have never met. We wouldn't be doing this, because the only reason we met and started this was because of what we experienced.
That's right.
When our children died. So yeah, if someone offered me my old life back with my child alive, I'd trade every lesson I've learned. And I've learned a lot.
Right.
And yes, I believe I am a better person inside in how I treat other people. I would give all that up.
Oh,
and for me, I know whether, I mean, I'm not that hard to find. I know I've mentioned, and it's in probably the profile, that I work for a major airline. So the benefits that have come from that, I've been able to, when it comes to experiences, so I've been able to travel to Japan and Mexico and Belize and London and Portugal and Rome, and I would give it all up, give it all back.
Yeah.
To never being able to travel outside of the country. Give it all if I had her back. I don't think there's a single parent out there that wouldn't.
No. So it's incongruent in our brains to talk about, who we are now. And I certainly don't want to paint myself as someone that doesn't have such incredible flaws, because they're countless. And, I am impatient with lacking in authenticity. I don't want the fluff. I am a very emotional person, and there's part of me that wishes I had a Teflon coating still. I feel like I had some Teflon coating when I was so that driven, career-minded, carefree, naive, whatever you want to call it, 20-year-old, 26-year-old. It hurts to live in this world without some Teflon. But I never grew mine back. It's just to be that vulnerable. I think it's courageous for people to be vulnerable, but it's hurtful because you're really so open to being hurt and to be deeply impacted by others.
I agree. I also think that things that might have rocked us before don't. So it's maybe a different kind of Teflon. So
Oh, that's a good point.
like when my mom died, this was after Kristin, it hit me way differently than when my dad died when Kristin was still alive.
Wow, that's interesting.
There was less of the gut punch. And so we may have listeners that are, that listen because they're supporters of someone else. And so it might be hard to wrap your head around, but it doesn't. When my brother died, like, okay. And I'm not being callous. It just doesn't hit the same.
Right.
When you've had the unimaginable happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still parts of my old self that I miss. Yeah. And some of that is, like you said, the naivete of going to be great tomorrow.
Why wouldn't it be?
And then some spontaneous laughter.
Absolutely. And why wouldn't the next day be even better? And of course we're going to have next week and the next week and the next year. So we can plan.
Planning.
Yeah.
I certainly spend more time in the present and in the moment and far less time planning.
Yeah.
Listeners will ask you the question, if you just want to pause for a second to try to answer this. What parts of yourself do you miss? So just think about that. Write it down if you need to. Think about it for later. We become someone new.
Man, when you said that, I was thinking about answering that question for myself. And could I pick one or two of those qualities and try to seek them out? Could I work on them? Are they just gone? Certainly some are. Trusting, carefreeness, maybe naive that bad things happen to really good people. But I think that's interesting to think of. Is there more of my past self emerging a bit as time passes since the loss of my child, or not? And can I intentionally seek out some of those things that are kind of in the in between versions of myself? Yeah. I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know people often just say, I want my old life back. And I totally get that. I've also realized that she doesn't exist. And it's not because I've failed. It's because this loss of my son has changed me. And I didn't get control over that. And it's okay. It would be, I think, quite odd if I was the same person.
I can say I would only want my old life back if Kristin were in it.
Right.
I am a much better person at the core now than I was before. It may sound odd to say, but I have a really good life now, which again, I would give up in a heartbeat.
Right.
And some of that is because of what has happened, in that I look at what can I do for other people? How can I help those who are experiencing the same thing that we've experienced?
Right.
Knowing we can't fix it, but just communicating what we have learned over this time. Maybe it takes the edge off. Maybe. I don't know, but it's just about helping others. Just why we do the podcast, which is why we started the foundation. It's about other people. That part, I am happy, is part of me. Because I don't think the old person would have done too much of that. Not the old Bruce.
No, me neither. I would have shied away from this topic. I've been so scared to have a discussion around losing your child because it's my worst nightmare. Yeah. And, here you are. And we're just learning to carry who we have become.
Yeah.
And there's definitely parts of both versions of myself that I like and don't like. I don't have as clear a vision as you do that I'm a better person. I just am a very different person. There's definitely parts of that other Kristin that I'd sure like her to be in my life.
Well, I will say that my awakening on that was through a lot of therapy and a lot of work. This isn't just I came up with this on my own and I had a sudden revelation. There was a lot of work that went into it and a lot of really good people that helped. Let's ask some questions of the listeners. And feel free to come back to this segment of the podcast if you need to. But just so that we can ask you, that you can ask yourself, what has changed about you? What part of yourself do you still miss? What part of yourself are you proud of? And have your priorities changed? And what would your child recognize in the person you've become? That one's going to sit a while.
Yeah, that one. When you said that, I was like, wow, that's really an interesting one to think about.
Yeah, that's one I can't answer on the spot. I can't answer it right now because that's a deep reflection question.
Well, I think we've definitely, we know from ourselves and from others that we won't become the person that we were before. And that means that we have chosen to survive something that's changed us forever. Our kids change us when they're here, and they change us if this tragedy happens. And neither chapter's going to define us completely. It's the sum of the whole of who we are in any given moment. I guess our challenge is to try to just give love and grace to the person that we are today and the person that we're becoming. That's what we would want to give as a gift to others and listeners, and I would hope that's what we give to ourselves.
And we get to give that back to our children. Thank you for spending time with us. If today's conversation helped you put words to feelings you've struggled to explain, we'd love for you to share this episode with another bereaved parent. And if you're someone walking beside a grieving parent, remember this: don't expect them to become who they once were. Love the person they are becoming. Visit us at the Don't Forget to Breathe Foundation to learn more about our podcast, support resources, and community. You'll also find ways to connect with other bereaved parents and those who want to support them. Visit us at don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org. Until next time, be kind to yourself and don't forget to breathe. One more thing, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. We are not licensed professionals, just parents who've experienced unimaginable loss. This isn't meant to replace help from a therapist, doctor, or other mental health professional. If you're struggling, please reach out to someone qualified. You are not alone. You can also contact us by going to the show notes and click on Send Us a Text, or you can visit us at our new website, don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org. Feel free to email us at support@don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org. That's support@don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org.